I've been planning it forever, but you know what it's like. You know you have to do it, but when it comes right down to it, it's hard to work up the courage. It's like when you want to jump into a pool, and you're worried that the water's going to be cold, but you know moments after you jump in that it'll be fine. It's the fear of the shock that holds you back. Ultimately, the only thing you're worried about is the transition from one state to another. And that can't hurt you because it's just a state change. That's a Black Mirror quote from the White Christmas episode, which is so perfectly Black Mirror, especially that. It's like broken up into a couple different sections or acts, whatever you want to call them. And that particular section gets pretty fucking weird. Gets pretty crazy.
If I couldn't find hope, I should just let it all go. I used to think if I couldn't make dreams come true, I should just let them all go. When life seems impossible, look from every angle, change just one little bit. When life feels intolerable, find your true source of love. Concentrate, focus on love. Center now, focus on love.
That's right. We're back. I'm back. You're back. Got my tea. Got my water. Feeling ready. Tea today is classic Bengal spice, which I was a latecomer to, being a tea guy my whole life. 31 years now. I don't think I discovered Bengal spice until 2019, but haven't looked back since. It's a staple. Don't drink a lot of tea during the summer months, obviously, but come the start of tea season it again, Bengal spice is one that I pull out first. There's a comfort, familiarity. It's been a year and a half since the last one. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. That's dealing with life. I can disappear. I can get lost in my own things. And maybe I can only think about myself sometimes. And not others. Not the listener, you know? And it's one of those things, for me at least, when I'm away from something for an extended period of time, it just is so hard to go back to it. And I don't know, there's just a wall up. For no real reason, but for whatever reason, each day that passes, grows that wall. And so if I don't podcast for a week, which was the optimal schedule, the wall is ankle height, shin height. And I can just step over it. I'm like, whew. I know that wasn't much, but I still had to step over this thing. It wasn't a clear path, but I did it easy. Now I'm here. Each passing day grows that wall a little bit more. And once I hit a month, that wall's now chest height. And that takes a lot more effort for me to get over and to get to that other side and do the thing that I've been putting off. Now put it at multiple months. Now I'm looking at a 10-foot wall in front of me that just discourages me from wanting to do that. I don't know what's on the other side anymore. I don't really remember. I can't see it. I could see it for a bit, but I haven't seen it, that other side, in a month. And now I'm anxious about it. Now I'm fearful because I don't know anymore. Now I just feel like I don't even know what's over there. So how am I supposed to just like drop over the wall, make a bit of a scene, and just pretend like things are normal? And I have this in a lot of, like, it's especially the case with the podcast, but it's the case for everything in my life. If I have a friend that I haven't spoken to in X amount of time for whatever reason, whether something happened that made it stop or whether you just haven't talked to them in a while, but the longer that time goes on, that wall continues to grow, and now I don't know who's over there. And I should just crash over the wall, land on my ass on the other side, and dust myself off and be like, what's going on over here? But I'm afraid to. I don't like putting myself out in that way. If they were to poke their head over the wall, then great, we're back. I know that's still them. I know they're over there. I look up, I smile. Maybe now we can open a door in this wall and just walk through it. I remember in grade 10, I skipped math. And I didn't even really skip math. I skipped math because I'm going to say grandma, but she's not either of my parents' mums. She is the mother of my aunts. So my mom has 2 half-sisters. So they all share a father. My mom has a different mother than those 2. It's their mother. Their mother passed. And yeah, went and did all the things, so I didn't go to math class. And then it was my morning class. I think I slept in the next day, the next class. Missed it. And then I missed a third one. And at that point, that wall it was already a little big, and I wasn't in the headspace to get over that at the time. And I ended up missing like a month straight, where I would just get up, I'd leave the house, so my mom didn't know, but I wouldn't go to class because I was afraid to walk in and be like, hey, sorry I missed the last 3 classes. The last 4, the last 5, and it just kept getting worse. My situation wasn't improving, but for some reason I couldn't see how kicking the can down the road was going to be worse. But it was like, to make that change, like that quote at the start, like all I was fearful of was the first minute of class, where it's like, oh God, I'm back here. And I'd get looks and the teacher might say something, whatever. But then I would sit down and class would start. I had it similarly with like jobs that I've left in my life. I've never gone back to them. I worked Tim Hortons high school. And same thing, after I quit, I just didn't want to go back. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And then that went on. And then I just stopped going to my local Timmy's because I had some weird, I haven't been there in so long and there's just this wall in front of the door now. And I've probably got that with where I work or worked now. 1.5 years gone by, I've moved. The old podcast studio, my home, was in Vancouver, BC. And now, brand new digs, recording out of Squamish, British Columbia. Beautiful Squamish, British Columbia. Little mountain valley town. Rivers, ocean, mountains, lakes. Got it all. It's beautiful. I continued to work in the city for the first 9 months or so. And that was fine. That was fun. Only about an hour drive. Beautiful drive, though. Sea to Sky Highway. But then I started working less. It started getting tiring, started getting boring, started getting exhausting, really. I didn't think the drive would get me because I love driving and it's a beautiful drive, but it's a windy road, so it's not a chill drive. And then you're just tacking on an extra hour each way to every day. So an 8-hour shift becomes at minimum a 10-hour day. If I want to hang out with people after work or like decompress a little bit, say I spend 1 hour after work, maybe play a board game or something. Now it's an 11-hour day. Now, having left at 9 a.m., I'm not home till 8 p.m. and the day's done. And again, that's only spending an hour of free time. And when I'm so exhausted when I get back, I would spend 2 or 3 hours down there so that I get a little bit more out of my day. But now my day's a 13-hour day. So that got old. And I didn't want to stop working there. But I did want to stop working there. I didn't want to do that drive anymore. But I wasn't sure what to do. The move itself was already big. Moving to Squamish, I've never lived outside of the greater Vancouver transit area. So this move was already big, and a job change, of which I've only really had, I've had 3 jobs in the last 11 years. And 2 of those were 5+ years. One was sort of in between each of them. That was more of a fun side gig. But so I don't change often. I'm afraid of that change. I'm afraid of starting to build a wall behind me. Changing, not seeing, not being a part of whatever I currently am. But even though it took a while, I have now transitioned out of that job, which was tough. I had it good. I worked myself up, general manager, decent pay, decent perks, my own schedule. It was all good. And for somebody with no education, for somebody who doesn't feel confident in their skills, to leave a good job was and is terrifying. Because now I feel like I am no better than anybody that's hunting. And so I'm not currently working. I've had probably a month and a half of no work, which I wish I could say has been nice. I've had the savings for it, so that's fine, but there's a weird, responsibility that I feel to be doing something. It's hard to just do I want to just do nothing. I think the best use for time like this, I don't know in the next 30 years how many more instances I'll get to not work for a couple months. And I'd like to be able to just relax, just do nothing and just relax. But the money worries are there. I've got the savings to go through, and I'm happy to burn them through, all the way through. I'll admit, which is probably not smart to do, but I want some time. But again, not able to relax because those money worries are there, and burning through money does feel bad, and I don't have a job lined up, and I don't know what exactly I want to even do. And I moved in with my partner up here in Squamish, and she works from home. And so I feel bad doing nothing, lying on the couch, watching videos sort of on my phone, working on little side projects for myself because she's in the next room working. And it's not like she's, not supporting me. She's, of course, supporting me, but it's not like she's taking care of me at this time. She's not paying my bills or anything like that. Like, we're still pay our equal shares, but there's a feeling of guilt, maybe. And I'm sure from her, even if she doesn't want to feel that way, there's probably some resentment to the dude that's just chilling every day. It'd be easier, I think, if she didn't work from home. A, for me to relax. B, for her to just come home and have me be there instead of me just being there all day while she's trying to work. The time has been great as a reset to try to think about things I want to do. I mean, it's the reason I'm sitting down here right now. If I was still working, I wouldn't have the energy or the desire or the motivation to do these things I want to do. I'd be too tired. So I'm glad that I'm starting to do. I think there was a period of like a deep breath out that lasted for a few weeks of just like a real decompression. And then the last few weeks has been a little more, okay, well, how can I use this time? Or how should I use this time? Or how do I want to use this time? And that's just good perspective to have, good questions to ask. I mentioned living with my partner. That is, if she listens to this, a treat. If she doesn't listen to this, not a treat. No. It's nice. It's just different. I'm a dude who's lived on his own for, who's actually lived on his own for the last 10, 11 years of 31 total, but who mentally has lived on his own for like 20. Like, I try to explain this to people, but growing up, me and my mom, like, we did not talk. Most days we would not talk. We didn't really have dinner together. Every dinner, she would say, it's a fend for yourself night, and I'd eat cereal or some shit. But like, we didn't sit at the kitchen table and talk about our day. I didn't open up to her about friends and people at school. She smoked a lot of weed and watched a lot of TV, and I played a lot of video games. And we were around each other, and we lived in the same building, but we weren't living together. We were living separately. And then I've lived with cats. And I don't have to talk to cats. I can, but I don't have to worry about them replying or wanting to start a conversation. I can say the same thing over and over to them. I just call them cute and small. But living with somebody has been a change. And I'd say a welcome one. It is nice you can't feel as alone, which I think I noticed and realized at times that I was lonely sometimes, living alone. But the flip side of that is you're never alone. And I love to be alone, especially when I'm currently not working and she works from home. But it's nice. I definitely eat better. We do fresh prep. Shout out fresh prep. If you haven't tried any of those meal delivery apps, I would recommend it. They're so easy. They're so nice. And you're just like, oh, I could make this on my own. And then you can just get stuff and just like it teaches you to cook a little bit. Obviously, it'd be nice if they broke down some of the spice blends and what they are and why they are and did like a more informative package. But as far as just not having to think about dinner every day of your life, it's pretty good. So it's nice to have somebody make me dinner every now and then, make somebody dinner every now and then. If she played more board games, it'd be nice, but she does play every now and then. So having somebody there to bother for that. And it's just nice to have the presence of a good person around. I feel like I probably can't get as deep into holes with her here as I otherwise would. Like a big part of moving away was running away from the loss of Belle. And I think having somebody around, yeah, when those pits in the road come along, it's easier to avoid them, easier to see them. And it's been a wild year. Lost my grandma on my dad's side. And it was nice to have somebody there. Even though I don't really want to be consoled or anything, just knowing that somebody's there does do wonders. We got a dog. I don't even know if I'm going to have time to talk about this dog. We got a dog from Chile through an organization that I want to say is called Homeless Pets Canada. Anyway, I've known a couple of people who've gotten dogs through them, and they both had nothing but wonderful things to say. The way I'm phrasing this kind of sounds like I don't have wonderful things to say, but that's not true. They were wonderful people. And they're trying to do good. This dog, on the other hand, is the cutest dog I've ever seen in my whole life. Super sweet, super nice, but she is terrified of everything. We got her in the end of February. She ran away for 36 hours, 11 days after we got her. She escaped from a dog park. But we got her. She doesn't care about us. She doesn't care about people. At the time when we first got her, she didn't care about food. She just laid on the couch. She would not get up. She does not like walk. She does not want to go outside. We'd have to carry her outside. She'd pee in our hands. It was a lot of fun. But she's so sweet. And it's going to be a really rewarding experience when we break her out of that shell. That's one of those things I always wanted but couldn't do living alone. People do it, and good for them, but I think it's tough on a dog to only have one owner. So living with somebody has helped with that, for sure. It was a dog or a baby, so I said, let's get a dog. Even though I wanted a cat. Winnie would have been introduced to the podcast last episode. I was crying. Winnie's great. Winnie's cute. She is slightly less a terror, but she's done good. She's filled a void. She's still a kitten, 2.5. Still young, so she's still running around and not as cuddly as an older cat would be, which I really need at times, but she's getting there. Living with someone is also interesting for seeing how they treat cats. Did you know that some people will move a cat off of them if they want to get out? It's not something I was ever aware of being an option. If the cat's lying on me, I guess I'm stuck until that cat is done. It's been a year, like this week, a couple weeks ago, of living up here and of living with my partner. And that happened really fast. We moved in together and changed cities after like 2 months, which is a ridiculous thing to do. But we had known each other before, and it was like, well, rather figure out if this works or not sooner than later. And I think we both had the confidence that if it didn't work, it would be fine. It wouldn't be messy. And so, just went for it. I made that change. I think I talked about that quote around that time. Like, there's this hesitation, but it's like, what is the hesitation actually about? It's just that change. Once we did it, moved, we're here. Then it's like, okay, well, now we're just living life. I have realized that for as much growth as I feel I've done, and for how open I feel I am or can be about my mental health, I'm still not actually that open. And that's especially the case when I need to be. When I'm feeling okay, I can talk about it, talk about the ups, the downs, open up, give advice, be optimistic. I can help people through whatever they're going through, especially if they're open about it. But when I'm actually feeling it, when I'm in the thralls, I get short, I get reserved, I get distance. I just don't open up. I don't ask for help. I don't let the people that care for me know that I need them right now. I still try to do it alone. And that's weird living with somebody. And I guess I'm wondering if that will always be the case. I honestly didn't realize I was still this way. But I am, and I don't know how it's going to change. It will take a really, special, attentive, patient, aware, communicative person to help get me there. And I guess that's what living with somebody hopefully can do. Because I'm trying. I'm getting better there, but it's tough. I've got to break down all the years of my life not doing this. Because in my head, fuck it, I'm strong. I've always been alone. I can always be alone. I don't need anybody. But this realization hit me because I was falling recently. I could see that pit on the trail approaching, and I was trying to find a way around it, but ended up in it. And while in it, I was trying to think about what I wanted, what I needed. And I thought that I just wish I had someone to take care of me, but not even take care of me, just be around, just be here for me. I craved a calming mental presence. And I know I have people, I think I have people I can reach out for that, but I don't. And I was like, I should message such and such, but I didn't. I put on my Wallow playlist, just went through it on my own. It's a fight. It's honestly just like getting into a fight. Only the damage is mental, not physical, and I don't know who my opponent is or how to combat them. And I'm just trying to roll with the emotional punches I'm absorbing. And I guess that's depression. And it's hard without Belle around, which is an interesting realization as to how much she was helping or helped. As heavy as days still got with her, I guess she was that presence that I crave. Yeah, maybe that's why it was heavy this time. She wasn't there. She was that calming, just there presence that I need. She was easy to reach out to. Always available, always there for me, always ready to cuddle. Winnie is great, but not the same cuddler. And I don't know why I can't actually like put that on a person. I don't want to feel I don't actually want, it's not that I don't want that person. I just don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. And that it's so cliche. It's not even being vulnerable, it's being weak, you know? Because I'm not actually weak. I don't think I'm weak. I think I'm the same as anybody else, and we're all going to have highs and lows. And I'm going to go through my lows, but I feel weird going through those lows openly or talking about them because I don't want to seem weak. Maybe at the risk of then not seeming normal, not seeming healthy. And another thing I've realized is I'm pretty terrible when it comes to other people's mental health, especially people I'm in a relationship, or maybe specifically people I'm in a relationship with. And that was such a slap to my own face because I try to pride myself on being caring and understanding of what other people are going through and trying to help them. And I know I do it and have done it for friends. But it's like when it gets really bad for them and they really need the help, like a similar situation to me, like if they're feeling good and they're open and they're talking about it, then I'm great support and can help and ask this. But when they're at the quiet stage that I get to sometimes as well, when I'm not feeling good, when I don't want to be weak, that's when I then have realized I'm not as good a support as I could or should be. And it's something I need to work on. And it was a shitty thing to realize. Because I think I probably made some people feel alone. When I could have helped if I tried a little harder. And so I'm sorry for that, for anybody. I think it's a good thing to look at in yourself, especially when you're not feeling tip-top. Are you supporting the people around you the way you should? Because I think you have a responsibility to the people around you. I think that's, what is it? Is it society? No, it's community. I think that's community. I think about the way my ancestors used to live. You know, where a whole community had a longhouse and everybody worked together and was there for everybody, and you were raised by your aunties and everyone was responsible for each other. And being responsible, it's a weird one for me. Because generally I think I'm pretty responsible. At least I can be. I know how to be. I will be when I need to. Like at work, I am responsible. or I've been responsible. But I don't know, when it comes to things without immediate consequences, I don't think I am. I struggle with it, especially personal responsibility. I don't take care of my health responsibly. I really ought to start taking care of my health responsibly, because if I don't, it's going to kill me one day. But I'm afraid of what types of pains and hardships and heartache comes from being responsible. I've got a big chunk of cowardice in me. But at the same time, what I hate and fear more than anything is that my inaction on certain things will lead to hurting others in some way. Because I really don't want to hurt anyone. I think I enjoy the thought of not interacting with too many people, not getting close with too many people because I can't hurt them or let them down in some way. I fear that my lack of responsibility led in part to Belle's death. They said she threw a blood clot, maybe had heart disease, and maybe if I took her to the vet more often, she hadn't been in 2 years. And she was just a cat. I had to be responsible for her. And maybe I let her down. Part of what the animal hospital did for me, I paid for as part of her passing, was to have her paws imprinted in clay. That was set to the vet for me to pick up. And I remember when I picked it up, it brought back a lot of emotions. Missing her, but some thoughts of responsibility. Like even with this, I dragged my feet. I couldn't make a decision on the color. I wanted them to paint the clay around her paws. They told me to email them when I decided, and I just couldn't decide. And then it got to the point where I was wondering if they were just going to go without doing the paws, because I waited for like a month. And I was starting to worry that I wasn't going to get it. But at the same time, I didn't reach out. I was too afraid or something, or that wall had grown too big. Even though I really wanted these prints, I paid for them. Luckily, they reached back out and asked if I had made a decision, so that was nice. And I've got those now. They're cute. I often wonder, where does or should that feeling of responsibility end? Like, I think with a cat, with a pet, I mean, you're responsible for them. I've never had an aggressive dog. That would be an interesting thing about what the animal is versus what you can do or not do. Your kids. When you have kids, obviously you're responsible for them, but to what end, to what age, for what actions? There's been things recently that have made me contemplate that responsibility for others. The one that really brought it on was my building manager in Vancouver before I moved. Which I guess isn't recently, but plays on my mind a lot. When I moved in, this guy, the building manager, his mom was the building manager. She was an amazing woman. She was like 140 years old. It was crazy. And he would come around every now and then. I think he would help her with some things, but he didn't live there. She lived there. But during that time, there was an incident or two with a friend that I had in the building, the person who had got me in there. Just weird, stupid things. Don't park in this spot, blah, 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 whatever. But it wasn't handled very well. And then his mom passed 2 years ago, maybe. And that was not good for him. And this guy, if I can paint a picture, he's old as well. Again, his mother was 220 years old. So he's like, I don't know, man. 50s? 60s? 50s, we'll say. Not in good shape. Quite rotund. Not excessively, but like certainly not in shape. And just seems rough. Sounds rough. Doesn't seem nice, necessarily. But when you talk to him, it was in there. And then COVID happened. And you could tell a bit that things were starting to go down, even with like little to no communication with him. His health wasn't getting any better. I think there was probably some drinking, maybe some drugs, or maybe a lack of drugs happened. But he became a bigger issue for the building fast. He had moved into his mom's place, I can't remember if I mentioned that, but he stopped paying his rent for a few months and was evicted. And I saw him that day. I saw him outside the building crying. Just a subdued sob, trying not to make a scene. But you could tell he was hurting. And he had like a hockey bag with wheels, just full of stuff. And I heard him on the phone asking someone for some cash just for the next week or two. And it's, like one of the issues that happened with this guy is with my friend who used to live in the building, is he put sugar in their gas tank. Like a really fucked up thing to do. And he was like banging on their door. Like it ended with cops and a restraining order against him, and he had to stay X distance away from them, and they ended up moving or whatever. But like some serious shit. This person was not seemingly stable, and dare I say, not a good person. We would agree that that's not what a good person does. But that was years before, whatever. He came back and broke into the building at one point, broke some glass, cut himself, bled in the building. It was kind of scary. I've mentioned my cousin has a unit in my building, and she lives on the ground floor in the unit that was beside his. She told me when he was evicted that they were cleaning it out and how dirty and pest infested his suite was. And that's just to say in how dire straits he was in. She said she saw him a couple times just standing out front of the building in the middle of the night after he was evicted. It was not a fun situation for anyone. And then about a month after that, I was biking home from work and I saw him. He had a big blanket wrapped around him, and he was sitting on a bus bench. And that made me pause. And I saw him quite a few times in the days after, sleeping outside of a building a block away, just walking down the street with this blanket on him. And he was homeless. He was homeless now. And sure, did he bring it on himself? Sort of, I guess. But is that what he deserves? Was he given the opportunity and support that everybody, I feel, deserves? I don't know. I don't know his life. all I know is it hurt to see. When I saw him, and I could just tell he was now homeless, and thinking about like hearing him asking somebody on the phone for help, and I'd overheard at times him like begging to be let in the building. And to see him and know that he was now homeless and sleeping on the street made me cry. Just the humanity of it. Just feeling like somewhat close to him. Not like I'd never spoken more than 100 words to him, but there was a responsibility I felt knowing him. You know, unfortunately in Vancouver, I see a lot of homeless people, very large homeless community. But it's different when it's somebody you know. It's different when you see the transition from living in a home in the same building you do, like in the same situation you're currently in, to being homeless. And at that age and with that health and with no parents, what's going to happen? I remember thinking about like, do I offer him to come and stay at my house for a bit? But he was actually also given a restraining order for the building again after all this, and we were supposed to notify if he was ever like around or trying to get in, so I couldn't really do that. But for some reason I felt like I should. I felt a responsibility for him. And I thought about if I was the landlord or a landlord, or like try to put myself in that situation. I talked with who took over as the building manager, who's a nice guy, a normal guy. And I told him about what I saw. I didn't try to get too deep into it or make him feel bad or whatever, but he said he's seen him too, but have to do what you have to do. And I don't know. What do you have to do? Because I feel what you have to do is help people. And again, he doesn't own the building, so it's not even ultimately his decision. It's his job, but we can't just blindly do jobs when they affect people's lives. And I don't think it was the wrong decision. I just wish there was more support out there and available. And then I had an instance at work with somebody that I had to fire. And I worry, or I wonder, if I gave up on him. And I don't think so. I know I tried. I gave him multiple warnings, even for what were fireable offenses. It was alcohol related, drinking on the job, taking alcohol. And I tried to talk to him. I try to have a relationship with all of my employees. He and I went to a concert together at one point. It's not like we had no relationship, but he never opened up. I knew he had a problem, but he wouldn't admit it. I tried to keep him as long as productively possible and see if he would get the message or open up or something, but each time we sat down to talk about what I'd seen or what I had heard, what he did, he wouldn't bring up that he had a problem. And it came to a point where I had to fire him. And I had to fire this person knowing that they had alcohol dependency issues. Which should be illegal, but he wouldn't say it. He wouldn't use that as a defense. And even at that point, I offered him the option of choosing to quit so that his records would show that he chose to move on and wasn't terminated for whatever reason. And I don't know, was all of that, and I didn't, for staff, the only staff that a couple managers knew what was going on, but talked and told them we were not going to bring to light what was happening. We were going to let him say that he chose to move on as well. But I don't know if all that was too lenient Or if it wasn't lenient enough. Like I said, like, did I give up on him? I know that his next employer wasn't going to care as much as I did. That he'll probably get even less support. He'll just get thrown out. And then what does that lead to? And I guess I hope a wake-up call at some point. But it could just be a continuation of the cycle. And I'm sad to say at this point, around 2 years later, that it seems to be the latter. He's still around in the area of our work. Comes by still, talk to him still. I know people that see him every now and then. He's doing fine. He's not homeless. He's pays his rent, works a job, but I know that it hasn't gotten better. And it's like, did I just leave him alone with his problems? And is that wrong if I did? Is that my responsibility? Or our responsibility as a community? I've actually got a even harsher example of this, and these three have been things that I've thought about together under this umbrella of responsibility a lot. But before both of these happened, and I wonder if it would have gone differently if this was chronologically the last case and not the first. But I worked with someone while still the head chef at work and not the general manager, but still in control of my department. This also meant that I was on the floor working with everyone. It was also around COVID times, so things were tight. Not a ton of people in your life, and work allowed us to be social, which we were lucky for. I had an employee who I could tell was hurting in life. It wasn't like an episode, but I could just feel the heaviness that he carried with him. And he started great. Interesting dude. Had his flaws for sure, but had his strengths. And for a while, we really got on. He was probably like 10 years older than me. Also indigenous, but he was adopted when he was a baby. A really similar story to my dad, actually. I could feel that generational trauma. And there was a wavelength that we shared there. He had a chip on his shoulder because of it. And yeah, again, it was COVID. The team was tight. We worked together a lot. He liked sports. He liked to laugh. He was a little more bro-y in his talk than me. A little more crude, I guess. But I understood it. It's something I'm used to. Working a kitchen line with just one other person is such a great place to bond. Spending 3.5 years in there really gave me a lot of close friends. And with this guy, it really allowed or forced us to talk. And working at a brewery helped it flow better. We would finish our shifts, close up, and have a beer or two out front, just talk. On Mondays, for whatever reason, we always seemed to get a little deeper. He alluded to things about him, thoughts or facts, but things inside that he said were terrible, that he wouldn't even tell me. Even after weeks of working on him, he's like, yeah, he was just saying like, there's some things I will never let out. But those Mondays he would call mental health Mondays. And they were great for both of us. I know he didn't have many friends. He had a partner, but though the relationship was fine, I know it wasn't perfect. They each had their own mental health struggles, and I know he wasn't a very positive guy. But he was trying his best. A big problem I've had or have is that I really throw my everything into work. And maybe that's because I always end up in a management position. Or maybe that position is because I always throw myself fully in. But anyway, the problem is that then the people I work with, I start to judge their character based on their work. And I take laziness as personal disrespect. And I take consistent mistakes as general human incompetence. Forgetting maybe that they don't care about their job and it doesn't have anything to do with them as a person. I take not going above and beyond and going the extra mile at work as someone who is lazy and unmotivated, when again it's probably just a work thing. And I liked this guy, but I didn't love him. He was the coworker I had. After a while, his work started to slip. After he worked himself into a role of my assistant manager and was initially eager to help and learn, but that started turning into passing off any and all work he had to do to people that he felt were below him. I don't want to rag too much on his work here, but I'll say it slipped. And it wasn't what it once was. And to my fault, I was frustrated with it and let him know that. And what I did is stopped wanting to spend time with him outside of work. And we didn't chat as much as we used to, or just work focused, because I was annoyed with his work. And soon after this, he said something sexually inappropriate to a coworker one night. And she was rightfully not comfortable working with him after that. And myself and the GM at the time moved quickly to let him go. And that involved bringing him in and chatting with him about the incident and him confirming the details as well, but saying that he meant it jokingly or thought it would be taken better, followed all due process. Regardless, after that it was time to let him go. And now, part of me was happy, was relieved. This person who had started to cause me a work headache, which in turn made me think less of their character, was now gone. He was asked not to contact the coworker to apologize or anything, that she didn't want to hear from him and just to leave it alone. Though he wanted to reach out and apologize. And he did end up sending her a message anyway, that she had me open to read and pass on anything I felt valid, but ultimately it was ignored. I would say he tried to make amends. And I would say he really felt bad. And I would say he meant nothing malicious by it. I think in a different timeline, this could have happened without, or at least with much less of an issue. We did hear after the fact that there was a similar incident, except physical, a touch, not an attack or anything, that happened at a previous job of his. Anyway, everything moved on and continued forward. I don't remember how much longer it was. I think just over a year. But I got a text from that coworker saying that she had just heard through the grapevine that he had taken his own life. And that was really hard to hear. Here's this guy who I knew struggled with his mental health, who I knew took value from the conversations that we had, who I was responsible for as a manager. It's my job to help these people better themselves as a worker, and I really do feel as a person. That's what a good manager should do. I've encouraged people to quit and move on because they're better or bigger or this isn't the right path for them. I don't care if it's more work for me in the interim. I want to get to know these people and help them in life. And I feel like I gave up on this guy. The person who probably needed me most, I gave up on. When he was let go, I took the time to clean my hands of him. I didn't check in. I didn't see how he was doing. I stopped caring. And again, it's not like we were friends. We never hung out outside of work. And maybe I didn't owe him anything. But if we only ever helped the people we owe, we would live in a sad world. And though I knew through conversations that I wasn't going to fix him, or that he wasn't opening up fully, who knows what continued talk or support could have done for him. And it's those types of situations that I think are really the pillar of human existence. It's what sets us apart from animals, from anything else, is empathy and being able to care and think about and feel for others. And feel like we could all do it better, probably. And it's like, who's responsible for us? Is it just ourselves? The people that we're able to convince to love us? And I phrase it like that because it's not a guarantee that your family will be or stay responsible for you. A lot of people have no one, have no support. They've either lost it or ran away from it or whatever, and whether that's a fault of their own isn't the issue. Some people are very undeservedly alone. And doesn't everyone deserve support? Especially in a society, in a community, where we pay taxes, we pay dues to be a part of it so that in turn, it takes care of us. And because people aren't given equal opportunity and don't have equal luck or chance, even those who don't seemingly pay their dues, I'm talking about the downtrodden, the poor, the sick, physically or mentally, not the Bezoses, but those people should still get support. And that's supplemented by those who were lucky enough to benefit greatly from the system. And it's just hard that that isn't always the case. And I'm not even sure whose fault it is, Like with the building manager, who failed him? Was it himself? And if so, is it fair that someone alone can fail themselves? I think to fail yourself with no support is to have been failed by others beforehand. And the potential for a vicious cycle there is scary. And hey, maybe some people are bad. And maybe there comes a point of no return. But I don't think babies are bad. I don't think any babies are bad. Except for the Cash Me Outside girl. So, where did we lose these kids? And is it realistic to think we should have 100% success rate? Probably not. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is there are a lot of people in a lot of different situations that get left for dead, and that a lot of people feel it's rightfully deserved. And I just think that it's not that black and white. And that even people who haven't recently earned it deserve support. And that's not a blanket rule. There's a difference between murderers and rapists and that and people who are just kind of assholes. But it's interesting. I would say part of the move to Squamish, maybe not part of the move, but something I've definitely noticed since and appreciate is the lack of homeless people, is the lack of drug use that I see. And I've talked about it with my partner. We've both mentioned it. It's something can't deny. It's so prevalent in Vancouver and so much less up here. But I even feel bad saying that I enjoy that part of living up here because it feels like I'm ignoring that problem. That I've turned my back on a community that needs it. That I, as somebody not in that situation, feel responsibility for people that are. And I know I'm not, but where does it end? Where does it start? I saw a guy the other day. He was a big guy. High-vis vest on, steel toes, laborer pants. Dirty. He was crossing the street with one item in each hand. His left hand had a freshly purchased container of cat litter, and his right hand a new bag of cat food. And I felt that. I felt that so hard. Now, my story may be different than this man's, but the amount of times I've gone to the store just for cat items is funny. Maybe not even funny. It made me smile, though. It's such a strong connection to somebody to be able to glean from such little information, from no communication. But it was the fact that it was nothing else. For me, at least. Because I can really get myself anything. But my cat can't. I don't always get what I want or what I need. I don't buy enough groceries for myself. And I order out too much. And it's that funny bit of responsibility that we know we have where he could have, bought himself some bananas. Bought himself a yogurt parfait. But in my mind, he couldn't bear to make those decisions for himself or to take care of himself or to get something for himself. He was probably too tired, but he knew that he was responsible for his cat. And I gotta say, I can't believe Winnie has not interrupted this recording yet. It's an absolute treat. Absolute dream. I mentioned the dog earlier. After all that, maybe it's the right time to talk about her. So she ran away one time for 36 hours. And then she ran away a second time. She escaped out of her harness on a walk with my partner in the morning. And she was gone for 43 days in the Squamish wilderness. I saw her one night get chased by coyotes. We knew the general area she was in, and I was hanging outside of these woods with chicken cooked in bacon grease. And that obviously attracted coyotes, but then they got scared by me and they ran into the woods, and then there was some yelps, and I saw the coyotes chase her out of the woods, and I tried to break it up. This is on the third day of her missing. And anyway, she was gone for 43 days. And maybe I'll do a deep dive on that at some point, but it's that same thing, that same feeling of responsibility that was so present. And she's never been comfortable. She's never been happy. She doesn't like building. She doesn't like people. She was a street dog in Chile. She doesn't want to be housed. And she didn't want to come back. And I think it was my dad that said, just remember that she's made the choice to go where she's gone. Said something along the lines of that. But yeah, it was something basically along the lines of, remember, this was her choice to go. And if that's her will, then that's her will. And that made me cry. Because she doesn't know any better. Like, I understand it. And I understand me not, like, I didn't force her away. But she doesn't know what she's going to die. She's going to die in X amount of time because she's just a little street dog out there with coyotes and cougars and bears and wolves. And it didn't seem fair. It didn't seem right because I was responsible for her. We were responsible for her. And I think that was what hurt the most. Yeah, I think that's what hurt the most was not that she ran away or whatever, just the fact that we had failed. We failed her. Our job with her is to be responsible for her, and we sort of lost her. Not really taking into account like her actions that led to it, or the actions or circumstances previous to us that led to this being the case. But that was our responsibility, whether it was or wasn't, or to what degree it should or shouldn't have been. I'm not trying to say that we weren't responsible for our dog. We were solely responsible for it. But for this being the situation and her being the way she was, that's what hurt the most, was feeling like we failed her. And yeah, that feeling of responsibility really is a killer. And I so hesitant, interested in what that feeling will be like when you have a kid. Because, I worry about this for not random people, but just people passing by, for the dog, for the cat. When I have a kid, like, is that going to be... what level is that going to be of this responsibility? Who knows? Who friggin' knows? Recommendation for this episode is change. Change something. You'll grow and learn so much just from making a change. Change your hair. Change your job. Change your sheets. Rearrange the house or just the living room. Just make a change and feel that excitement. Feel that new. Maybe feel that control. Feel the impact that you are capable of. And the song recommendation, Song of Now, I think is what we've called it in the past, which doesn't ring at all. But continuity for now. I'm going to go with Do Better by Ab-Soul. Definitely hip-hop genre. But if you listen to this and you're not a hip-hop fan, please do still listen to the song. Ab-Soul's got quite the story. He was a friend of Mac Miller. And Mac Miller OD'd 6 years ago. But Ab-Soul ended up battling a ton of depression and tried to take his own life, jumped off a bridge, shattered both his legs, did not die. Then this song was off of his first album release after that. And I think that it probably talks... I think it's a good look into where somebody's at. But yeah, do better. Absol. That's the song of now. Recommendation is to change something. That's got to be pretty good, hey? I think that's it. I think that's it for now.
You can have it all if you learn what all is. You can make your dreams
Happy to be back.
true.
And happy to have you back.
Just remember it adds, and remember it will flow back to
Hopefully there's more on the way.
you.
No guarantees. We know I can't guarantee that. But I've got some time right now. I am unemployed. And currently, my job is podcasting. At least for today. And we'll see what comes next. Love ya.